Welcome to the final exam, question number 47. And it says, what test is used to measure the workability of concrete? I will tell you right now that the answer is the slump test. And I look down, it is a slump test. So, simple answer, it's A. Now I'll go ahead and explain. Alright, let's first explain what the slump test is. Slump test is you have this metal cone. I guess it doesn't have to be metal. I've always seen it metal. It looks like that. Looks like one of those cheerleader things. And then it will have a rod, typically, that looks like this. It's a metal rod. So what they'll come and do is when you're on the job site, you're inspecting, and you want to inspect the concrete, they come by with their concrete. They'll dump a little. This is concrete. Very good drawing, I know. You'll come by with a little shovel. Can either get 2 scoops of Raisin Bran or a little bit of concrete. That's my humor. Ha ha. Ha ha. Alright, so you have this little scooper. You go get the concrete. You put the concrete in here. You fill it up, I believe, a third. You take your stick, you ram it down. Not too much. You give it a good, I forget how many it is. Let's say 20. I believe it's 20. Don't hold me on that. It's not, well, it is important because this needs to be somewhat standardized, but it's not important to what you guys need to know. You just need to know the process, hopefully. All right, so you go in, give it 20 mashes to the ground. Then you come back. You put another third. You do the same thing, another 20. Last, you put it in. You do another 20. And then take this rod and you roll it back and forth on the top. So you make sure it's level. So you want to make sure that is level. Roll it back and forth until you have a level. It also, I'm sorry, there's usually a plate. Forgot to mention this. Not the best sketch ever. It's like a metal plate. Yikes. Okay, it's usually flat and doesn't have this bend into it. Anyway, so you have a flat metal plate, and this will have like a little notch to tie it, not tie it down, but to not bolt it down either, to clamp it down. Clamp sounds like a good word to use here. So it shouldn't go anywhere while you're doing all this. Then once you're done, what you do is you unclamp it, and you lift the cone straight up. And what should happen, let's go over here. Here's your... And you'll see it just kind of goes flump. And actually, this is why they call it slump test, because it slumps. And for instance, actually, let's just do it in purple on here. Let's say pink, rather. When you take that off, it'll come down like this. Then you can put the cone right next to it. And you put the bar on top of there for your spacing. You can see, oh, well, it's slumped 2 inches. Max we could have would say, for this job, you could say, oh, it was 4 inches. All right, we're good to go. And then if it's over 4 inches, it's like it's 4.5 or 5, depending on who you are. You can say, okay, well, you know what? Let's see if it dries a little bit. So you do it again and see what you get the second time. If it passes the second time, you'll say, okay, it sounds good. You can go. So go ahead and use that concrete. If not, they have to take concrete back, and that's not good for anybody because nobody's happy. The contractor is not happy because they have to wait for more concrete. They have guys sitting there waiting for that concrete to come. The concrete manufacturer, I guess we'll call him, he's not happy because he just had a load of concrete go to waste. All right, so that was our slump test, and that was the correct answer. And one more quick point, I guess, is I really haven't described workability. Workability is I'll write it down. Workability is the mostly it's the ability for that concrete to, let's say you have a pump truck. Obviously this is not how it looks, but you have a truck with like a, here's your concrete truck, and this is a terrible picture, I know. And you know, I have like a hopper or something, and then you have this concrete truck, and you'll see them out there. It has like a boom. And once again, very simplified version. Like that. Let's make the boom look like this. And then it will have this little tube coming out like that. And this is what the pump truck is. And it will, you put the concrete in there, and it pumps it up and goes through there. And the more workable the concrete is, the easier it'll be going through. But I've always heard is you can make it go through this pump truck with next to nothing slump, like maybe an inch or so, it'll still work. So sometimes it'll come out and it'll have 4 inches of slump or 5 or 6 inches of slump, and they'll say, well, we want it to be able to work through that because the contractor likes it more workable. And then another point is, you know, you have your forms or whatever, and you have these, you know, you have your rebar in there, and your rebar, they call it a cage, a rebar cage. Let's draw it like that. There's your hooks. That's your stirrups. So you got 3 and 3, and maybe some skin reinforcing. And putting that concrete in there is a lot easier the more workable it is. You know, it'll work around there a lot easier to fill in, just like a liquid. More liquid it is. I guess we'll use that terminology. So what the slump test is kind of a measure of how much water is in that mix. And the more water is in the mix, the weaker it's going to be. But the more workable it's going to be. So the less water, the stronger, but less workable. And as for the rest, so once again, your answer is A. For the rest of these, the air content test, I think there's 2 of those, a pressure test and a volume test. These you can just look up if you're interested in. The 2 tests I would remember are, number 1, the slump test, which is our answer in this case, and it has the cone like we showed earlier. And then and then you'll have these other. The other test is when you break the concrete. So right when you drop off this load of concrete, the guy will come in and he'll dump his load a little bit, just a little bit for the engineer take a look at or whatnot. So this is concrete, and you'll do your slump test. You do that first to see if you're going to reject the load, and if you accept the load, this is the slump test. All right. If you accept the load, then you'll, and I guess you could call this the cylinder test. You're breaking cylinders, is, you know, so you'll take some of this concrete and you'll put it in the cylinder. And it's usually like 12 inches by 6-inch diameter, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And you fill that up and you put it at the site, or you can bring it. When I say put it at the site, that's what we had done in the past, because someone would come pick it up. But you need to let this sit for a while and bring it to the lab, and you test it in 28 days. And after that 28 days, you see if you put it in this. For instance, here's this clamp, and I'll go back to purple. This is simplified, obviously. Well, maybe not obviously. But you put the dried concrete in here, and see what the compression strength is, and it'll break something like this. It'll crack, and you'll hear, well, you will most likely hear a loud pop when it does fail. It'll go pop, and you'll see the cracks, and that's when it fails. It's pretty catastrophic. You'll see what a catastrophic failure would look like. But instead of keep on clamping, these stop. They stop going, compressing it once it fails. The computer knows. All right, that is it for question number 47. I will see you on question number 48.